Okay, let's dive in. We're going to unpack something specific you brought to us, focusing only on the sources you shared. Today, it's Anchored Coins EUR, or AEUR,
That's right.
and our mission, working strictly from the material you provided, which, by the way, is dated December 4th, 2023, is to just get a clear handle on what AEUR is presented as in these documents.
Yep, that date, December 4th, 2023. It's important context for everything we're looking at here. And, the source gets right to it. It defines AEUR pretty clearly as a stablecoin that's backed 1.1 by the euro.
Oh, 1.1 euro-backed stablecoin.
Right.
Okay, simple enough start. But the source material you gave us goes a bit deeper, doesn't it? Like into who's actually behind it and how it's structured.
Exactly. It says it's issued by an entity called Anchored Coins. And what's notable, and the source points this out, is where they're based in their sort of regulatory status. They're in Zug, Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
And it mentions them being a member of VQF. That's a Swiss self-regulatory organization, apparently.
Okay, Zug, Switzerland. VQF member. So not just some abstract digital thing, but tied to a specific Swiss company and this regulatory body. That feels like a detail the source really wants to underscore, about its foundation.
It definitely seems that way. And building on that, the source really highlights the redeemability, the idea that you can always swap AEUR back for euros 1.1. That's a core promise mentioned.
Right, redeemability is like fundamental for stablecoins. So how does your source say they actually ensure that 1.1 backing in the redemption process? Where are the euros kept?
Well, according to this material, the reserves backing AEUR are held in appointed reserve banks.
Mm-hmm.
It actually names Flowbank as an example.
Flowbank.
Okay.
Naming a specific bank, that definitely adds a layer of concrete detail. It makes it feel more tangible where the money's supposed to be. But how do we know? Or how does the source say, the reserves are really there and enough is there?
Good question. The source addresses that. It states the reserves are monitored and audited by independent third parties. Prescient Assurance is the name cited as one of these firms doing the independent checks, the audits, and attestations.
Independent audits, dot monitoring. Okay, so that speaks to transparency, right? And the verification side of things, it seems like Anchored Coins, or at least how they're presented in your source, wants to show they have these mechanisms in place, adds another piece to the picture.
Absolutely. It sort of lays out the framework they're using for accountability regarding the actual backing.
Makes sense. And finally, just based on what the source says, where can people actually find this AEUR? Where does it live?
The source mentions it's available on Ethereum and also the BNB chain, so presence on some major blockchains, basically. And it notes plans to expand to others, too.
Got it. Okay, so let's try and pull this all together just based on the source material you gave us. AEUR is presented as this euro-backed stablecoin. It's issued by a Swiss company, Anchored Coins, who's a VQF member.
Yep, and the key takeaways from the source are that promise of 1.1 redeemability back to euros. Reserves held in specific banks, Flowbank was the example, and then monitored and audited by independent groups like Prescient Assurance.
And you find it on chains like Ethereum and BNB Chain.
Right. What's kind of interesting here, thinking about how the source presents all this, is the significance it seems to place on explicitly stating the issuer's location, that VQF affiliation, naming reserve banks, committing to audits. How do those specific elements, which the source highlights, contribute to the overall perception of, trustworthiness and stability for a stablecoin like this? That's something the source details seem to point towards.
That's a really sharp observation, based purely on the details in the source material. Definitely food for thought when you're looking at stablecoins in general. Thanks again for sharing this material with us. It allowed us to do this specific deep dive for you.